Hello and welcome back to the AQUARIUS software training video series on working with Location Manager. In this video, we're going to talk about Location Manager's Datasets tab. Let's begin. The Datasets tab is where you create or delete datasets for a given location. The buttons along the top will add a new time series, add a rating curve, or delete the selected dataset. Let's start by adding a time series. First, we'll look at the type. We'll start with basic, and I'll explain the others as we go. A basic time series is one that have their own raw data points. New values are either appended from telemetry or manually with logger files. The sections with a red border are required, and you will not be allowed to hit the Save button until they are completed. The label is a brief description that will be used in the dataset ID. In this case, I'll name mine logger. The description and comment are optional. The time zone is actually captured from the Locations General tab, but if it needs to be overridden, you can do so by choosing this configuration button. The parameter, the drop-down list, is populated with some frequently used ones, and as you add more time series parameters, this list will grow. I'm going to use stage, but I'll show you how to actually search for a parameter if it's not in this list. This configuration button needs to be selected, and you can start typing the name of what you would like to measure, and your list will become limited. If you need to change the units, you can do so here. And the gap tolerance must be filled in. If you'd like AQUARIUS not to do any gap processing, you would enter 0 here. If you knew your interval time was about 15 minutes, it's recommended that you go slightly larger than that. I'll make mine 16. Now you can see the Save button is available for me. I'm going to create another basic time series just for telemetry. Do that really quickly here. And we'll create another new time series. If I look at my drop-down list now, I'm going to select the next one, which is a composite time series. This is a time series that inherits its data from another time series, a basic time series. I'm going to configure this one to be fed by telemetry, but first I'll fill in the label. I'm going to call this one working for now. The parameter is going to be stage. My gap tolerance I'll make the same as the other ones. You'll notice that there's still a red section here, and I'll need to go and configure what is going to feed the composite signal. In this case, I'm going to say what's going to feed my working is going to be my telemetry signal, and I'll hit OK. Now you can see the Save buttons are available for me. So what's happening on this composite time series is that as there's data appending to the stage telemetry, it will also append to the stage working. If there's a time where my telemetry goes down, I can come back to this composite time series and reconfigure it to be fed by my logger for a time, and then go back to my telemetry. This allows us to have a continuous time series with multiple sources. Now we're going to create a rating curve. I'll select this button, New Rating Curve. I'm going to give this a label. I'll just call this one Rating Curve. I'm going to pick my input parameter. In this case, we're going to just go simple and go stage to discharge. You could use a rating curve to convert any parameter to another. It could be used to convert index velocity to mean velocity or stage versus area, for instance. The next time series we're going to create is a derived through a rating curve. So I'll go under the type and I'll pick derived rating curve. In this case, I'll just give it a quick label. I'm going to pick my output parameter as discharge, my gap tolerance as being the same. Now you'll notice this area is still in red. I have to go and configure what is going to feed through this time series. So I'm going to select a rating curve, and I'm going to select my working time series. This means that as data points are appended to the stage working, those values are going to be pushed through the rating curve and then will automatically be calculated into this discharge time series. We can also create a calculated time series. This will take a feeding time series and run the values through an equation to produce the calculated time series. This could be used for changing the datum. It is also the final step of an index velocity calculation when mean velocity is multiplied by area. In this case, I'll just choose my stage working and I'll allow for an elevation change of 1200. And hit OK. Now you can see I can hit the Save button. Everything is filled in that needs to be filled in. The last time series that can be created are a field visit time series. Now, I'll put this as a label of field visit so it's understandable. I'll pick this as my stage 1, and then in the gap tolerance I'm going to have 0 gap tolerance in this case, and now it's ready and it can be saved. Just to note that Aquarius has a system setting that will automatically create field visits for those parameters as they're entered in the field visit tool. However, if this parameter list is limited, this is a way to manually create your field visit time series for any parameter that you're measuring. This concludes the video on datasets and derived data.